Hi. Okay. So we're just gonna wait a minute or so, see if we can get some people online before I start. We got to start with this theme song.
Oh, I know. I like it.
Yes. And I'm going to see. I'm still getting a little bit of feedback from there, but we'll see. Okay. So, Aissa, how are you?
I'm good.
Are you good? Well, you look beautiful, I must say.
I love your dress. I'm excited we got dressed today.
Mhm. I am too. I'm excited. Okay.
Hey guys, we got some.
Hello, hello. I see a couple people are joining us. I'm excited about that. Um, so Miss Aissa, we're gonna go ahead and get started. But
Yes,
first,
light echo.
but first, we gotta start with with the theme song that I
Okay.
created, especially for this podcast. And with the quote, we create kind humans who speak kindness, show kindness. Be a kind human. Be a kind human.
I just love that.
I'm
That's just so perfect.
I think the end is my favorite part, actually.
Be a
Um,
kind human.
say that one more time, Aisa.
Be a kind human.
Yes, be a kind human. That's really my goal for everybody, is that we would be kind both to ourselves and to other people. So you are actually my first live guest on What the Quote.
I really am so honored. I mean, thank you so much. That means so much to me.
You are my first live guest, Miss Aisa. And so I wonder if we might give them a little introduction about how we met.
Yeah, that would be great.
What do you think?
I was thinking about that too today when I was getting ready. It's like
So
it's
you
just
want to go or do you want me to go?
you go.
Okay.
It's just so amazing for me how things just fall into place as they should.
Yes. So last year, I decided that I wanted to take my healing to another level. And I decided to go to IVISD, which is a program that Iyanla Van Zant started 25 years ago, maybe.
Right.
And so it is very experiential. And I'm trying to.
I'm so happy you found that word.
No, it's very experiential. So everybody's experience is different.
That's right.
And um, it's a lot of healing from thought patterns, from being on auto mechanic, being on auto, responding. And so in this class, I was in with a group of young ladies, and Aissa joined. And I don't know, outside of the fact that I thought her hair was beautiful, she just seemed to be this light. And then um, I don't know, there was a connection there for me almost immediately. And since then, we've moved into the second and final year of class. And uh, we're in small group and we are close sister friends and we pray together. And so
You know,
it's a great journey.
it's you say that because that's exactly it. Like I never had, sisters. I'm an only child. I mean, I do have a half sister, and so I find that this is so much like that.
Yeah.
A half sister,
Yeah.
sister from another mister, so to
Yeah.
speak, and
It just,
just
yeah.
this, the ability to be able to connect on such a deep level
Yes.
to some incredible women who are on the same journey and doing and really focusing on um, the same things that you're focusing on, which is healing and uh, sharing your light.
Yes,
And that's pretty intense and it's pretty powerful too. So,
it is. It is. And I think, unbeknownst to either one of us, as far as what the other was doing, we were both in the midst of doing a podcast.
that's the craziest thing.
Like, who knew?
Craziest thing that I thought to myself, I can't believe it. Tuana's doing a podcast too.
I know.
And
I
we
know.
really just came about it at this, it felt like it was like simultaneously
Yes.
and really not even knowing that we were doing that.
Yes.
And so I'm just grateful. I'm
Yeah.
grateful that we're on this journey because it's different for me,
Yeah.
and to be able to blossom was key.
Yes.
And so it's great to do it with you.
Yes. I'm right there with you. So before we get into the business of the quotes,
The business of the quote. I think we
yeah,
need to fix the feedback. Are you getting feedback? Because
I
I
am.
said
So
the feedback.
I don't know if maybe let me try something with this here.
Are you guys hearing feedback? Those who are on Instagram, are you guys hearing any feedback? Hearing any feedback?
I don't know. So I'll try. We'll try. I'm still getting feedback. So I don't know Instagram. We might have to see you later. Cuz I think it's for the on the Instagram that we're getting feedback.
Or wait, give me 1 second. Let me just see here.
Okay.
Um,
All these fun things happen when you go live.
I know. Can you still hear me?
I can.
Okay. So that should help.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, awesome. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I wanted this podcast to look and sound a lot like me and tell the things that I like to do. One of the things that I like to do is dance. I know.
Me too.
And so I don't know that I have just the music, but even so, we're going to take a quick break and dance just for maybe 10 or 15 seconds. You
Okay.
ready?
I thought you were going to say minutes. That's perfect. 10, 15 seconds.
Okay, here we go. We're going to dance. Whew, okay, so
Girl, I would have kept on dancing there
I know.
because that
Listen,
music was pretty good.
yes, it's a beautiful thing. So now that we, got our hearts moving and releasing any stress we might have had, let's talk about quotes.
Let's do it.
Yes, so I love quotes. They have inspired me, they've uplifted me, they've helped transform me. And so on my Instagram page, I have a plethora of quotes that I believe inspire me and other people. And I really just wanted to bring that to uh, this platform so that, it might be an avenue to transform other people's lives the way quotes have transformed mine. So the quote that you sent me was, "And the day came when the risk of remaining tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom," by Anais Nin. I hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly. So, Aissa, I want to first ask you, what is it about that quote that you love?
I mean, you read it, and I'm just like, wow. It's so intense
Yes.
for me to even read it, to hear it actually. And this quote came across my path probably about 15 years ago when I first explored it, and when I was doing coaching with women entrepreneur, leaders, and I remember thinking to myself, "Wow, that's so true." There's so many people, including myself,
Yes.
who tend to be more comfortable with staying um, in that bud, so to speak, that tightness,
Yes.
as opposed to really blossoming. And but there comes a day, and there really comes a day for, I think, each and every one of us, where it's more uncomfortable and it's more painful to stay that way than it takes, not particularly to blossom, but the risk, because that I think is the key word for me. It's
Yeah.
always like this sense of like, is it going to work? Is it going to come together?
Yes.
Am I going to do it? Am
Yes.
I going to be successful? So it's more painful than the risk it takes to blossom. We all know it's going to blossom. It may not be how you think it may, but it's going to blossom. The
Yes.
difference is that risk of it.
Yes. And so it's so funny that you mentioned coaching because I want to ask, so as you are talking to your clients about coaching and they get to this point where they're at the in the road, and either they choose to remain the same or to make a different choice. When they're at that road of, do I change or do I stay the same? What is something that you have brought to their attention? A question, maybe, um, that really made the choice rise to the occasion.
Mm,
Because I think all of us, even myself, we've been on this whole transformation um, journey
mhm,
last year. And the parts that I have a desire to change, they're deep rooted, they're deep seated, they're automatic. And so I just want to find out, as you're dealing with your clients, how do you give them the push or just allowing them to kind of consider what it's going to take for them to take that step?
that's such a great question because I think that oftentimes you hear and you think about coaching and you think that it's something that is really, the skies open up and then it, yeah, and then things change, automatically change. And you're like, well, that was time well spent.
Yes.
But it actually is an internal allowing. And so the question was, what do I say?
Mhm.
Or what is it that comes about to ignite that change? And so for 18 years, I've been experiencing, particularly women, but men
Mm.
as well, that there is a cyclical, very much uh, recycling of events, times, situations that happen over and over again. They're
Yeah.
different characters, they're different people, they're different. There could be different environments. You could be older,
Yeah.
but the reality,
Iyanla calls it different levels.
different levels, right? But
Yes.
there's this cycle that
Yes.
happens,
Yes.
and there's an awareness that comes about at one point where you're like, okay, I may have to, I may be playing a part in this. And so as soon as um, the first step is just getting a coach. I mean, really, that's the first step. But as soon as you go ahead and have that awareness, then that's when things start to shift. And what
Yeah.
you find is that you have a lot of people who want external results, without doing any internal work.
Yep.
And that really is an issue
Yeah.
because it potentially can not support you the way you want to. And so my premise and the way I coach is really focus on um, the simplicity of life, and you know really grounding yourself in that.
Hmm.
And um, and so yeah, it's a gentle process if you allow it to be. Sometimes you may not think it's gentle, but it could be much worse most of the time.
Yes. And it's so funny that you say that because I think that when I was listening to you talk, something that came up for me was in a lot of my transforming, I went from blaming other people to realizing, oh, shoot, it's really me.
I
You
know
know,
it's a sad day. It's a sad day.
it is a sad and
You're like,
pitiful
what?
day.
I can't. It's not that person or this situation, or because this happened to me. It really is a sad day. It's a great day when you look back on it, but at the time it's happening, not so much.
Oh my gosh, it is not so great. And so, what one of the things that I um, am really open to for myself and also for other people that I may be speaking with is, are you saying a lot that is around blaming other people?
Right,
And so if your conversation is about what they did, what they said, how they treated you, if that's the majority of your conversation, that might be a place to look. That might be a starting point.
right, exactly. Because at some point there's somebody kind of tapping, saying, "Hey." And so the more we cover up and the more that we don't want to look at it, it's a lot of work, by the way. It's not simple, or it's a lot of work. But, if we can condition ourselves to know that the work will be fruitful and not think that it's for nothing, then
Yes.
the work is needed and necessary. And it happens. The, whether you this is why I said earlier that there's a certain level of grace that you want to have in the transitions of things, right?
Yes.
I do believe that there will always be a time, whether we do it on our own or whether it's unfortunately quote unquote forced upon us, and or not forced upon us, but we've gotten to that place where we have not um, been honest and truthful with ourselves, that
Yeah.
we will have that day of reckoning within, and it's called rock bottom. So we can we can go ahead and move in delight and acceptance and awareness,
Yes.
but it usually doesn't come that way. It usually comes by you know just total default of like, oh my gosh, I've got to do something about this because it's really really causing havoc in my household, in my home, in my work, in my body, and whatever.
Yes. Yes.
And then there's an acceptance in that, and that's the beautiful thing. You're just really really really, you accept where you're at, and you're just like, all right, well, this is what I got to do.
Yeah. And it's so funny you mentioned the body. And I can remember last year I was having excruciating back pain. And it wasn't until I was in class one weekend and had a new awareness about something that had happened in the past and just had a total breakdown. Tears,
Hmm.
not, I mean,
It's not.
I mean, it was just,
It's not.
it was not, it was not a pretty situation. But I remember that was really the last time that I felt the pain.
Wow, that's
And
pretty
so
powerful.
it was almost, are you, okay, I'm hearing a little feedback. It was almost as
Could
if,
be.
it was almost as if me really going into the hurt and feeling the pain and crying the tears that released the pain that was in my body.
Well, I have to say that I'm just hold on one second. Okay, I have to say that once as an acknowledgement, you see, I know this for sure because I can understand with the back problem that we hold tension and energy in our body, and our body never forgets stuff. We
Yep.
may forget it, but our body never forgets it. So there is a somatic way of dealing with stuff, particularly in coaching.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah.
And we should not be amiss in that when you are supporting or looking for a coach, that you work with someone that is taking that entire piece, your whole entire person into account.
Yes.
So that body piece is huge, but there's release, and there is you know there is an ability of healing that comes forth from that. You
Yes.
know, so there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You
It is.
can go ahead and you can recover,
Yes.
you know, and that's the gift.
Yes.
You know, it's a really important thing to, you know, hold on to,
Hmm.
that all is not lost, and that you can you don't have to have the pain forever. It's just not like that.
Yes.
Oh, woe is me. You know, that mentality can be healed, cleaned up, cleaned out. It can be happen.
Yes. And you know, even the the quote when it says the risk to remain tight in a bud,
Hmm.
you know, it also reminds me of, I don't remember, well, I think it was in, I think I heard it in church. Maybe Pastor Johnson said that. I think it was maybe in church that if you're holding your hands tight,
Hmm.
keep what you have, but you can't let anything else, you can't let any more good in.
That's right. You can't reach to help but someone else.
Absolutely. And so it reminds me of that budding process, which is on the way to blossoming, but there can be, it's a metamorphosis, it's a change that happens during that period of time.
That's right. It's pretty spectacular to see. You know, when my kids, I have twins, and we bought.
Can we
And
just say amen for the twins? They're
amen for the
so,
twins.
they're
They
so
are the.
wonderful.
I tell you, they have purpose. When they came here on earth, they
Yes.
had they had a purpose to get their
Love
mama
it.
out
Love it.
of that bud
Yes.
and blossom. That was their purpose. I'm sure for
Yeah.
me it was. They
Yeah.
have their own purpose, but whew,
I know.
but you know, it's we bought the butterflies, the not even the butterflies, but the caterpillars
Yeah.
from we watched this whole metamorphosis, you know, of transformation, and how, you know, they grew, and then they turned to chrysalis, and you know, then they became butterflies, and then we let them go, and I almost forgot to feed them.
Yeah.
But the whole point of it is they survived, they flew
Yes.
away,
Yes.
but there was massive change
Yeah.
in that process.
Yes.
And, you know, we learn about that at 6 years old.
Yes.
And if we can only hold on to it,
Yeah.
to know that we don't stay caterpillars the whole time. You know, there's a movement and a growth that happens.
Yes.
I think a lot of healing or a lot of blossoming comes from ability to be the ability to remember.
Talk more about that, Aissa.
You know, there's oftentimes, because of life, because of the society we live in, because of how life is, and the expectations that are placed upon us and that we place upon ourselves, that there is a cloudy. in life,
Mm.
and so that goes back to my premise of living simply and
Yeah.
simply living, this simplicity that comes forth from just knowing that we do know the answers and not allowing the cloudiness to cover our vision. It, you learned it at 6. And I mean, you know to go before that, to continue to go before that, we knew it.
Yes.
When we were born, we knew we would be fed,
Yes.
because that's the expectation, and that's what we've
Absolutely.
always been. We've
Yeah.
always been taken care of, warmth and fed, and so you cry and you get what you need. Your basic needs are met,
Yes.
and held and loved. And so I think that, part of the intention is to remember. Just remember, even when you don't have the
Yes.
words, just kind of,
Yes.
get yourself down to just remember.
And it's so funny that you say that because, I am fascinated with small humans. I mean, and I am because to me they are the purest form of love and self-love. They know exactly what they want, when they
Right.
want it, how long they want it, and
That's
whether or not they want to give it to you.
right.
And when you talk about remembering, I know for me, that really hits home because for years, I was more concerned about the thoughts and the feelings of other people
I
instead of,
can. I'm shaking my head right now.
yes,
Those of you who are listening on the podcast, I'm shaking my head right now in agreement, in full agreement.
yes, instead of remembering who I truly am and what really matters to me. And so when I look at small humans who, and this goes out to all of the parents who have small humans who are either their children or grandchildren, really, they are who we spend a lifetime trying to get back to, that playful spirit. And how I mean, just that their whole being of being a child, that for me is the remembering part because I'm 52.
Girl, you
Yes,
could not.
listen.
I was like, no way, there
Yes,
can't be.
yes,
What?
ma'am. 52, just now getting back to when I was 7,
Right.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
because that is, I say that that's where the magic is really getting in tune and remembering, like you said, that's what it's really about, is remembering who we really are.
The one thing, it's so funny you say that about kids, because I am too fascinated with them. I mean, they are incredible. They are so funny, and they are so intentional. They know exactly what they want, like you said.
Yep,
And so my degree is in child development, and I
of
worked with
course.
sick kids.
That's why you have
Yes,
twins.
so I have tons. I was like, okay, so here you
Yes.
wanted to, yeah. So anyway, so I remember working and thinking, um, they're just so fascinating, because I worked with sick kids in the hospital, and they would say no, and my job was to support them in saying no.
Hmm.
They didn't have many choices.
Yes.
So waking them up in the middle of the night so that you can draw some blood was a firm no.
Mm.
Not in their
Wow.
bed. Not in their bed,
Yeah.
right? I mean, just think
Wow.
about it. You have a 4-year-old
Yeah.
sleeping, and somebody comes in and takes your blood in your bed. You're sleeping. So the
Yes.
the traumatization of
Hmm.
that piece of it all was really important to me, but there was a clear boundary that they set. Like, no, I don't
Boundaries.
want to do
Ooh,
that.
yeah,
And we lose that as we get older. We lose
do.
boundaries, we lose memory,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
lose playfulness.
yes,
We lose the time. We push the play away,
yes.
and
It's
then
so, yeah. It's so funny that you say that. I remember I was watching an episode of The Red Table, and I think that's what it was. And Will Smith was talking about Willow, and how remember I whip my head like that
you know this.
the song that she had, and she got signed by Jay-Z, and it was a great this great thing, and so she did a couple shows, and still maybe had a few shows to do, and she was like, okay, I'm finished. And her parents were like, "No, Willow, like we signed a contract, whatever." She's like, "No, I'm fit. Like I'm done. I'm
That's it
finished.
for me.
I want to go
Thanks.
home." You
Thanks
know,
for
and
that.
yeah, and it was this whole thing of, and she asked specifically, so it doesn't matter what I wanted, you know,
Mm,
you know. And so it really that took me back again to
right.
how we as adults we push through the things that are, I say, my insides,
Hmm.
my intuition, my knowing.
Hmm.
Olivia Pope might say her gut.
Yeah.
We push past all that just to do. And I think that, you know, I'm not so sure that that is what we need to be doing as often as we are doing it.
Right. I believe, and I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
And that time, that releasing of that playfulness, that happens at a very young age.
Us.
That magic is taken from you in certain times. It's often it's taken traumatically, but often it's not.
Yeah.
Often it's just like, yeah, no, you can't do that. You have to do this. You have
You
to
know
do
what?
it now.
Yes.
It's because I said you have to do it.
Yes.
And
And even if you have a coloring book, you have to that's why they make the lines. You got to stay inside the lines.
isn't that crazy?
Yes.
So
Anyway,
true.
sorry to interrupt you, but yes.
No, but it's so true. I see it. So I have 6-year-olds now. And forever and a day, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Am I doing it right? What am I doing?
Hmm.
What am I doing? Because it's like when you worked in the hospital, but you're not the doctor or the
Yeah.
nurse, and you know a little bit, and it's really dangerous because you think you know,
Yes.
you really don't. It's the same thing with parenting. You're like, I think I know, you know?
Yeah.
And so for me, it's been this kind of, checking myself
Yes.
all the time of what I'm doing and how I'm coming across and allowing them to be free
Yes.
in a way that also protects them because I believe that, the intentions of our parents and those caregivers around us, um, for the most part, not completely and totally, but
Right.
for the most part, was to protect us.
Yes.
And they screwed it up most of the time.
Yes.
And so, and then we're here, and like everyone else,
Yes. I have
right?
done my share of screwing up, Andre.
Right,
Yes.
right, right. And you know what they say? There's this great book that I read. It's like a workbook. I have to look. I don't remember the name or the author, so I apologize for not having
It's okay.
this.
So if we find it, I'll add it in the notes.
Okay, great.
So yeah.
But I can look for it. I have it somewhere in the archives of my books.
Okay.
But it talks about that there's always a trauma that happens. And if there was no physical, emotional trauma, there's always the birth.
Yes, which is very traumatic.
Traumatic, right? We talk about the
Wow.
trauma for the mom, but it's traumatic for the child as well,
Yes.
the baby, the infant. So going back to us and that magic and we're always so it's not like there's a perfect person or someone who hasn't gone through this stuff.
Yep.
So if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm here. How did I get here? What can I do? How can I change? Whatever the case is, just know that everybody's at the same place you are, so to speak. And I mean, some people look different and they kind of come across as different, but everybody's going through their same stuff.
Yes.
And so, really, now the goal is just to clean it up and to go forward so that
Yeah.
you can actually play and serve
Yes.
in
It's
life.
so funny. It reminds me of I one of my good friends, Donna. We both have one child, and her thing is, which I totally connected to. She was like, This is my first one."
Right.
You're
I get a
It's
phone.
like, listen, this is my first one.
Right.
I don't, listen, we're trying to get through this the best way we know how. And it's so funny because sometimes, my son is 28. And so people are like, how did you? I'm like, listen, you got to get through the best way you know how.
Yeah.
Like,
And
I don't,
nobody gives you directions.
yes, like, I don't have any shoulda, woulda. The only shoulda, woulda,
Sure.
coulda I can come up with is talk to them and be there with them. That's about all. After that,
Right.
I don't,
Right.
because every child is different, every parent is different. What I gave to him, somebody else, I mean, it's just, you just, we are both alive. That is about all I
That's
can
that's
do.
the point.
we both made it.
We both made it. Yeah.
Yes, because we're
And
all doing the best we
we
can.
can.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And so, to the quote, you're doing the best you can, but then that day comes when you know that there's more.
Yes.
And then you have to take the risk.
Yes. And so, Aissa, what does more look like for you in your life right now?
It's interesting that you asked that question because um, for me, more looks like talking. It looks like sharing. It looks like, yeah, it looks like using my voice. And the events over the last 3 or 4 months have been huge in that
Yes.
because there is no stopping the energetic force that's happening within myself
Mm-mm.
and within outside of me, within my community, within the country, within the world.
Yep.
There's no force that's going to stop the creation of what's happening right now.
Absolutely.
And so I had to say to myself, am I a part of that creation?
Hmm.
Am I a part of the new beginnings, or am I a part of? I'm not a part of that. And that was a huge question for me because you know everything has transitioned. So when I was growing up, I remember my grandmother saying to me like, "Oh my gosh, these computers and who's doing this stuff? What internet? What is that?" There was
Yes.
such resistance. There's
Yes.
so much resistance to it.
Yes.
And I remember thinking like, what is wrong? Like, it's just a computer, grandma. Get on the internet. Like,
Get
what
over
is
it.
the problem? Get
Yeah.
over it. Yeah. But you know what? Now with social media, the way
Wow.
that it has been. I mean, it's taken off so much and completely, right? But I remember in the beginning, like, no, I'm pretty comfortable. I mean, I'll do my little Facebook posts and do this
Yeah.
and that. But, I'm not really a social media person and selfie all the time. And I'm not making judgments. I'm just saying that just
Absolutely.
wasn't in my wheelhouse. It wasn't something that was really, accustomed to doing. And
Yeah.
then it was just like, okay, things are changing. Things are changing. And so what are you going to do?
Yes.
And so, me moving into this um, this place of allowing was huge in the process of me expressing my gifts. And like everyone else, we all have gifts.
Yes.
And I, took a long time. And that's a judgment on myself, but everything is in divine order and at the right time, at the right place. But I still felt like, okay, it wasn't even a choice this time around, because I've been thinking about using my voice
Yes.
in other ways for a while. I would say since the twins were born, like how am I going to transition this? I'm changing. I'm a new person. There's a lot of
Yes.
new things that I've learned and I'm growing. How do I use that now? And I couldn't really pinpoint it, but since March,
Hmm.
there has been a force within that is unstoppable. And so I decided to do what I do well, which is coach. And I've always been coaching. I've been coaching for 18 years, but
Yeah.
I've been coaching in a very interesting way to
Nice.
those I love and care, and and
Yes.
who they know and love and care. And
Yes.
so they're like, "Oh yes, here's Aissa. She's a great coach." And so I
Yes.
had a very small clientele, so
Hmm.
to speak,
Yes.
and it was only by word of mouth.
Hmm.
So my client base grew and grew and grew, but I never posted on social media. I would support those who were interested, and really my business has grown because of word of mouth. But
Yes.
now it's different. Now I
On
decided to
purpose.
really, it's on purpose. It's intentional,
Yes.
and I'm just really putting everything that I've learned and that I continue that I know works
Hmm.
out there,
Hmm.
so that I can share and serve. Really, that's what it comes down to. And so my call to action is to support people in healing. And for me, the revolution is this. It's the joy.
Yes.
Um, you can. You can be a revolutionist, so to
Mhm.
speak, and be joyful
Yes.
and freedom and create that. Radical healing is being joyful. And
Yes.
so I decided that I was going to do it.
Yep.
And so I'm in the process of, I'll start a course on what that looks like on a very, specific base level.
Yep.
I'm starting a podcast, which I'm really excited about.
Tell them the name. I
So the
love
name
the
of the
name.
podcast, I thank you so much, is called The Gift to Shift.
Hmm.
The Gift to Shift is really about uncovering the process of what it takes to pivot and shift, especially when it's not easy.
Yes.
And it is really talking to ordinary humans who are um, who have pivoted and who have shifted and who are changing and are transforming, and looking at them in regards to what it took for them to do that.
Yes.
So that when we look on social media or we're having conversations with other people, we tend to, make it up in our heads that this is something that just happened. And it's not. There's a
Never.
process.
It is.
It's a process. And if the process part is usually not spoken about. You're usually talking about, look at where I was and
Yep.
look at where I'm at now.
Yes.
And people will say, well, how did you do that? And it can be they're usually very blanket answers.
Hmm.
Oh, well, I made sure that I did X, Y, and Z, and I, put down a plan of action, and, you know, I, wrote some affirmations. People are like, what?
Yes.
How did that happen?
Yes.
I want to know because I want that too.
Yes.
And so we're really looking at having conversations with those who are intentional about their work and are passionate about it, and then uncovering the process of what it took to actually get there, what
Yes.
that looks like, and what other people can do, and using those tools to be able to share and serve. And so I'm really, really excited about it. And it's a way for me to be able to show people what transformation really looks like instead
Yes.
of just talking about it. So that will
Love it.
drop September 1st. I'm excited.
Yay. I'm equally as excited. I'm equally as excited. And I'm excited because, in listening to you speak, the one prayer or desire that I would have for everyone listening is that you would make the decision and the choice that 2020 be a year like no other year.
That's
That
right.
you leave out of 2020 differently than what you came, because this year is going to be in the history books.
That's right. And so what end of the history, what part of the history are you going to be a part of? Like
Yes, yes,
where is your, no, seriously, you're
yes,
absolutely right.
yes,
2020 is the year. People are like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for this year to be over. And I'm like, I am here for it all.
yes,
I am here for it all, and I'm going to do whatever it is that I need to do in order
yes,
to make this a year that I
yes,
can look back and think that was the pivot year for me,
yes, yes.
and
Because
giving,
this is a
yeah,
year of transformation.
that's right.
Everything is changing.
That's right. And that's energy.
It is. It
And you're
is.
either going to watch it go by,
Yes.
you're going to say, oh, look
Yes.
at that. Look at how interesting that is. Or look
Yes.
at, wow, I can't believe this is happening.
Yes.
Or you're going to use the energy for good,
Yes.
use it to allow it to propel you
Yes.
to get to where it is that you want to go.
Absolutely. Because this is the perfect time. This is the perfect time to start creating. And I say this a lot, but I really, really mean that this is the perfect time to create a life that you love and that you want to live, because nobody's going to do it for you.
That's right. No one.
We're all trying to create the life that we want to live. So
Yeah.
we don't
And
have
it,
time, you know?
yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah. Nobody's going to create it for you. You have to do the work.
Absolutely.
And the work is actually quite rewarding.
It is.
So those people who are intentional about the work are the people that you need to be around,
Yes.
because you want to be in the presence and connected to people who are shifting and
Yes.
pivoting and moving and
Yes.
creating. And it may not be perfect, but
Yes.
it's going to happen.
Yes. And
And
so
those,
here's, go ahead. I'm sorry, Asa. Go
no,
ahead.
I just wanted to say that that's what we talked about yesterday, remember? We
Yeah.
were like, it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to happen.
Listen,
And I thought to myself, that's a perfect word. That's so true. We're
it
trying to
is.
get the technical stuff all
Yes.
together. I was trying to use my mic here, and I didn't want to just use the computer, and I'm trying to do the interface and all this. And you're like, okay, great. And then you say, you know what? This is going to happen. It
However,
may not be perfect, but it's going to happen. And
it
that is
is.
essentially the
Yeah.
way that things, that's the outlook. Perfectionism
Woo.
is needs to be tossed away. Where is
Woo.
she?
Listen.
Perfectionism. I mean, we can have, let's just, there's
Oh
a
my
lot
God.
more.
Listen, that word right there, that I am in recovery for that.
Girl, I hear you.
And because even so, Aisa and I were talking yesterday, and she's like, "What if the twins come in?" And I was like, "Listen, if the twins come in, they might have a quote for us." Which
I'm
is
so happy you said that.
we
I was like, you know what?
we
You're probably right. They would have a
they
good
probably,
quote too.
the twins probably have a word for what the quote podcast. I'm just saying. But part of my journey this year has been releasing that,
Hmm.
releasing
Hmm.
perfection, releasing trying to get it right and trying to forget all of that.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that when I look back on 2020, for me, I it's going to be a year of releasing
Hmm.
perfection
Yeah.
and hiding, because that's what I've
Hmm.
been doing, a lot of hiding. And when you talked about using when you talked
I
about
do.
using your voice, like, I would just post quotes on Instagram. I would just post them, wouldn't say anything about them. You didn't see my face. And people were like, but what do you look like? Because it's just a bunch of words on the page. I would never do it. And so that's one of the transforming things that's happening, is, you know, to take a minute and stop and say, okay, how have I been acting? And what's another way that I could possibly act?
Mhm.
What's something else that I could possibly do that would help me blossom
Mhm. Absolutely.
instead of remaining in a tight bud? Okay, so Aissa, I decided that I was gonna have a coaching corner. I was gonna put.
Oh,
I said I was gonna
I love it.
look. I said I
It's
was
so
gonna have.
great.
I said I was gonna have a coaching hat, but that don't. Really,
Coaching hat.
that's why
Where'd
I
you get
said
that hat
it.
from?
So
That looks
put
like a handmade hat. Is
but
it a handmade? It's so pretty.
I got my
Is it
hair.
reversible? Because then it's a really cool hat. It is reversible, you see. You have to make sure that there's
You know,
multiple purposes.
so I decided that
So
when I
great.
put on my coaching hat, that I would give the listeners, the people on the podcast. I'll try to take a picture of it so you can see my hat, but um, because I want to leave them with a tool. So usually I
Mhm.
would give them a tool
Okay.
um, that refers to the quote so that they have a tool to leave with to work on. So, but since you are the coach extraordinaire, I would like for you, and so here's why I give them a tool and why I talk about being kind is because
Mhm.
kindness is for you, and it's also about you being kind to yourself and you being kind to other people. So, what is a tool or a takeaway that you could give them that they could work on until the next episode?
Well, I think one of the biggest takeaways that, particularly now, because of what's going on in our country and what's going on from the pandemic perspective, and also from the race issues that we're having,
Yes.
that there is a way to be able to recover.
Yes.
There's a lot of trauma happening right now,
Yes.
and there is a way to recover.
Yes.
And oftentimes, um, it's it's outside, but all the time, it's within.
Oh boy.
And
Yes.
so I think that for me, you know, there are specific things that help me to recover. And I'll tell you just two.
Yeah.
One is that you, and I mentioned this earlier about living simply,
Hmm.
living simplicity, um, that you just be still. You know, I mean, just be still and
Yeah.
take a breath. We're rushing, we're getting up, the alarm is going off, we got things to do, we have to, you know, do this and do that for this person and that person, and we're parents or grandparents or, just serving so many other people. Just sit and just be still for a second.
Yes.
I think that will create so much simplicity and clarity
Yes.
in
Take
whatever
a
you're
deep
doing.
breath.
Take a deep breath, right?
Meditate.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the other thing is that, um, you know, realize that after going within, there is a going outside of you to be able to get support.
Yes.
Because what I know to be true, because it happened, is that there is a conversation that we have within our heads.
Oh boy. You're gonna make me throw this hat at you, Aissa. Okay, go ahead.
That the conversation is just with you and yourself. And
Yeah.
you're having a conversation, you have the beginning and the end. You have written all the stories about it. They're chapters in this.
Yes.
And it's just been a conversation, just you.
Yes.
Stay out of your head. It is a
Yes.
dangerous place to be without the proper support.
And supervision. Yeah.
Get yourself a support system. Get
Yes.
yourself a coach. Get
Yes.
yourself someone that can support you in the process of
Yes.
progress and not perfectionism. It
Absolutely.
just needs to be progressive. You just need to progress. You
Yes.
don't need to be perfect. And so sometimes the incessant conversations that you're having with yourself, you need to just get support of
Yep.
tools of what it is that you need. But meditation, being still, and finding support,
Yep.
knowing that you will recover are, my two takeaways from
Yep.
this.
Awesome.
And yeah.
I love that. I love it. So be still, get quiet, meditate, breathe, and
Mhm.
then get some support. And I have found that it's in that stillness and quietness that's when God speaks to me the most.
That's right.
Because when I'm praying, I'm doing a lot of the talking.
I think that's the truth.
But it's not until I get still and quiet and pray that I'm able
Hmm.
to hear the guidance that He
Hmm.
is giving me.
A lot of the talking, a lot
Yeah.
of the asking, a
Yeah.
lot of the demanding,
Yes.
a lot of a lot of the mindset, and you're right. It's in the whispers, it's in the
Yes.
quietness of things that we really, really are able to gather.
Yes. Yes. Hi, Issa.
Oh,
It has been such a joy talking to you these few short minutes, and I can't
I
wait.
know, it just feels like we were just
I
on.
know. It's almost been an
Can
hour.
we can we just continue to talk? I just want to talk some more.
I know.
I
I
have so much to
know.
share.
I
I love
know.
talking with you.
I know. I know. I
I
love it.
love we create kind humans. I
Yes.
love I
Yes.
want to be a kind human too.
You are a kind human. Yes. Yes. And so I want you to tell everybody how they can stay connected to you.
Well, you can, thank you, Talana.
Mhm. Yes.
You can go to thegifttoshift.com. Actually, it's gift to shift. There's no the. So it's gifttoshift.com and sign up there. You'll get notifications. I'm currently doing interviews. I'm so excited about the people that are going to be on, including the woman that I'm talking to right now. I can't.
Hey, what?
That would be you.
I love
So
it.
yes, go to gifttoshift.com and you can find me on Instagram, on Facebook. That's Twitter and LinkedIn. That's the handles for everything. And yeah, there's good things coming.
Yeah.
There's intention to serve and to help support and to clear and to use my gifts like you're using yours.
Yes.
Is really part of what this new world is going to look like.
Yes. It is. It is. Because when we rise up,
That's
we
right.
give other people an example of how to rise.
That's right. And it's not perfect.
And it is mine is not.
It's no one is. No one's is.
Because listen,
That's
I had to
that's the
shut off.
biggest
I had to
lie.
shut
That's
off
the biggest lie
Instagram.
ever.
I thought I was going live on Instagram. I could not figure all that out, so I had to stop it.
Well, we're
Sorry.
on live on Facebook, no?
We are live on Facebook, yes. And so here, listen. So as we close,
Yes, tell me.
I need everybody who's listening to do me a favor. Go to iTunes
Yes.
to What the Quote podcast. Subscribe and then be a kind human and leave a review.
That's right.
So that is it for this week's episode of What the Quote. Thank you so much, Aissa.
Thank you,
I'll
Tawana.
absolutely. I'll put her contact information in the show notes. And until next time, be a kind human. And just in case you need to hear this song one more time before we go. Here we go. At What the Quote, we create kind humans who speak kindness, show kindness. Be a kind human. Be a kind human.